Theodorus of Tabennese, also known as Abba Theodorus and Theodore the Sanctified, was the spiritual successor to Pachomius and played a crucial role in preventing the first Christian cenobitic monastic federation from collapsing after the death of its founder. Biography. According to hagiography, Theodorus was born into a wealthy Christian family and was well educated from a young age. Early in life he denied the excesses of his parents, and at the age of 14 joined a monastery in the diocese of Sne, near the modern town of Sne, Egypt. A brother from Theodorus's monastery stayed with Pachomius in Tabennese while traveling and preached the virtues of the koinonia upon his return to Sne. Praying and weeping, Theodorus became determined that his destiny lay with Pachomius. Although initially denied passage to Tabennese by a Pachomian monk due to his wealthy background, Theodorus opted to follow the visiting monk, and his persistence paid off. He was welcomed by Pachomius upon his arrival, and quickly integrated into the community at Tabennese around 328. Quickly becoming a favorite of Pachomius, Theodorus lived an enviably ascetic life in the monastery, and took on the title of the Brother's Comforter. Theodorus asserted his influence openly and generally maintained himself as a prominent figure at Tabennese for several years, despite never being given a position of power in the monastic hierarchy. Finally, Pachomius called on him to preach to the brothers despite his youth, and eventually appointed him steward of Tabennese after several new monasteries had been built. Retiring to the monastery of Phbow, Pachomius gave Theodorus complete control over Tabennese, though recalled him from the position after witnessing several monks under Theodorus's watch violating the monastic rules without reprimand, having failed to prove his governing ability and once more in a position no higher than when he had entered the monastery. Theodorus became a personal assistant to Pachomius and remained relatively quiet for some years. Despite his clear potential in popularity, Pachomius refused to grant Theodorus any kind of authority, though the old man's failing health soon changed things forever. After Theodorus had been assisting Pachomius at Tabennese for several years following his demotion, Pachomius became very ill and seemed to be on the verge of death. Pachomius had not named a successor, and several brothers pleaded with Theodorus to assert himself as head of the koinonia when the sickly man died. Despite the assertion that Theodorus apparently did not want the rank of a father of this world's glory, he consented. Unfortunately for the would-be leader, Pachomius recovered, and upon hearing of Theodorus's decision, exiled the ambitious young man. After living a life of constant weeping and prayer in solitude, Pachomius forgave Theodorus and allowed him to live among the brothers once more. Normalcy returned, though never again would Pachomius fully trust his former protege. In 348 Pachomius died, naming the brother Petronius as his successor rather than the clearly qualified Theodorus. The death of Petronius later that year would leave Horsesios in charge, and the popular Theodorus would retreat to the distant monastery of Panom. Although it seems Theodorus practiced complete submission to the new leader of the koinonia, problems soon arose in several Pachomian monasteries that viewed Horsesios as a weak leader, refusing to work or communicate and demanding a new leader. Many of the elder monks completely abandoned any notion of obedience to Horsesios. The federation of monasteries was falling apart, and Theodorus rushed to Tabennese to placate the rebels. Soon after his arrival, Theodorus was the new de facto leader, though although he claimed to be only acting on behalf of Horsesios. For 18 years Theodorus administered from Pachomius's old headquarters in Phbow, using techniques far more assertive than his predecessors, such as constantly shuffling the offices and locations of the most ambitious monks. Yet in spite of this somewhat unstable shifting, the koinonia was ruled peacefully for nearly 2 decades, at which point Theodorus predicted he would soon die. Within a few months his prediction came true, and Abba Horsesios once more took his place as the head of the communities in both title and authority.